All right, so this is going to be how you actually want to set up a spreadsheet so you can calculate your cap rate. It's actually pretty easy. I've pretty much set it up for you already, and I'm giving you an example of a property that has multiple units. This particular property has 4 units, and so instead of just looking at the monthly rent, which is here, you're actually having to account for each single unit. So what I've done is basically I've set it up. I went over here, I hit my sum, and I am grabbing all these, and that's where I get that. So when it comes to your gross potential rent, this is for your full year. So I want to take this amount for 12 months, and then I want to multiply it. That's your gross potential rent. Your other income that you could possibly have, it's fairly rare until you get into units such as a apartment complex and stuff like that, is you could have storage units and different things like that. That's where you'll actually put in an amount here. Let's say each one of these units actually does have a storage unit. So what I want to do, make it super simple. I collected $2,000 for the year on that storage unit. I'm going to add that amount to here, make it super simple, and that is what I end up with. Your vacancy rate is actually, you need to determine it depending on what the market is. Most of the time I run it off 5%. Some people run it off 10%. If you want to be conservative, you can split the difference pretty much, and you can run it as a 7% margin. So you're going to take your vacancy rate, which is such, and you're going to multiply it by your total potential income, and that's going to show you what that cost is. So your gross income, will equal, and there you go. You took a little bit of loss right here, but you have your gross potential income based off of the potential rent income and your vacancy. Now, there are several expenses that you have to think about when you have a property. Your maintenance, you have a fourplex here. Generally, when I have a house, I'm going to keep that at roughly about $500 per unit, or $500 for that house. On a fourplex, you can actually reduce that a little bit. Let's just say that equals 300, and then you have 4 units, so that's $1,200 there. Your total annual taxes, we can estimate that at $5,000. Your insurance for the year on a fourplex sometimes is around $2,000. Now you have to understand your management fees. What are your management fees going to be for that property? Typical rate that you'll see on a property is going to be around 10%. That's actually what I charge. And it is on gross income collected. So it's not on your potential income, it's actually on, not your potential, your actual gross income. And if they have lockers and stuff, like I said, they can do that or collect off of that as well, so they'll get paid right here. So what you want to do, pretty simple, again, equals your property management. You're going to multiply that by the gross income, and it's going to cost you $3,000 for them to operate that property. So show these all in dollar signs. That's where you're at. So this all equals your sum. You want to grab all these, hit it right there. That's your total operating account. So where you thought you had a gross income of $30,000, your net operating expenses put you at a little bit less than that. Obviously, you're making about 1/3 of that in a year. And then you take your gross income minus your total operating costs. That's where you get your net operating income. So that looks pretty good, right? What you have to account for is what you purchased this property for. So let's say this fourplex equals you bought it for $250,000, or you bought it running off our numbers. We bought it for $200,000. Okay. I don't know why I did that. Sorry. You bought it for $200,000, plus you invested, let's say, $30,000 into this property. Let's do that. All right. So that gives you this amount here. Your cap rate is actually going to be this, your net or NOI, divided by your purchase price. And that's where your cap rate comes in. Okay. So display that in a percent, and you're actually winning with the 8.52% cap rate. That is actually really good for a first investment. Now you're saying, oh, what if I don't have all these units? What if I just have a single house? It's the same method, and I can actually delete this, and it's going to mess up everything. You can see, obviously, everything went to a negative, but let's say I just had the one unit, and my monthly rent, like we talked about in some of those systems, obviously this is going to go away. My monthly rent is $1,000 a month. Okay. As you can see, if I paid $230,000 for that, I would be making quite the loss. All right. Now, on my houses, I typically have a fairly quick turnaround, so I like to use 5% because I lose, or I turn them around really quick. The other income is going to go away because obviously I just have a single family house, and what I actually do here is put single family. All right, that way I know what I've got going on here. So I'm just going to put this and paste it right there. Shift everything around. I know I'm getting $12,000 a year for that property. Now my vacancy has changed. All these numbers adjusted based off of what I've already put into the system. The reason I showed you how to set it up this way is because you can make multiple sheets. You can make 10, 20, 15 of these sheets using the same system. You just have to take the time to set it up to start with, okay? So my average, like I said, for a single family house is about $500. My taxes on a $100,000 house is probably going to be about $2,600 here in Texas. Insurance is definitely going to go down. And as you can see, all my numbers are changing. My management fees have already adjusted. As you can see, they're already down to what they were. My vacancy rate, everything's good. Property management. Now, I have a NOI, or net operating income, of $6,160, which is great, but let's use that example on that property that we talked about earlier. This is why it's important to understand your numbers, and this is why you really, really, really need to make sure that you're buying at a profit, not a loss. Remember, I showed you that you're buying it for $80,000, you have to put $20,000 into it. So if I bought this house for $80,000 and put $20,000 into it, my cap rate is 616. So I have $100,000 into it. Now, on your purchase price, that's great. But if I do the upgrade, I won't have to actually, or I will be able to get more for this. Let's say this is $1,200 because I've done the upgrades to it. I spent that $20,000 like we talk about here, and because I'm making sure that my value in the rent, and I'm looking at all those things, is going to be worth it, I'm going to have, I'm going to have a return that is worth what I'm looking for. So this is a quick little outline. I'm going to come out with some more detailed stuff later. This is a sheet that you can use to get yourself started. Obviously, you want to slow it down so you can fill everything in. but this is a great way, and this is exactly how I got started with running sheets and cap rates and everything like that, so that I would know whether a house, after running the 1% rule, would be an actual profit, because your taxes, your insurance, your management fees are all going to be the determining factor. All right, everything looks great up front, but it's all these things right here that will determine whether you're actually going to make a profit or not. And if you can get this up above 8, you have a winner. All right, guys, thanks a lot.